go. Push the button. It is time to go. I'm sitting here singing to myself. Hello, everyone. Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. And we go live once a month, the last Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern whatever time. I don't know. I don't understand any of that. I'm excited that y'all have joined me. I have probably should have cleaned up my desk, but I didn't. Let's see who is here. Hello, Karen. Yahoo! You're ready to laugh or chat about needles? Yes, because we always need to talk about needles. That's something missing from my knitting tattoo. I need needles, but the thing is the thing that's like the most photogenic in tattoos, like the most aesthetically pleasing in a tattoo, is a straight needle. But I don't use straight needles. I don't use straight needles at all. So I haven't figured out how to a way to get a circular needle tattoo that's not going to look like poopy. So I skipped the needles. Hello, my golfer. Um, Flat tires. That's not good. Hello, Tracy. Good to see you. I like the little pink yarn ball. I don't know where you got that. Hello, Barbara in Bethesda, Maryland. Excellent. Hello, Elizabeth. Good evening. What are you working on? I'm trying to remember what you're working on. My brain has left me. Hello, Australia. Hey, Alex. Very excited to see you here from Australia. I'm probably, if you've been here before, I probably already mentioned because I've actually been to Australia. I'm so excited. It's been a while now. It's been a couple of years, but it was one of my bucket list kind of things. And I'm super excited that I've stepped foot in Australia. Actually, it was kind of funny. At one point, my mother and I went on the trip with my mother, and we were just walking. We got off the boat and we were walking to go do something. I go, "Hey, Mom." She goes, "What?" I go, "Guess what?" And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "We're in Australia." And she was like, "Really?" It was fun for me. Yes, last Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. Fun time. Hello, Sally Thibodeau. Hello in Louisiana. I bet it's probably is. This is the meh kind time of year for the South, because it's not really. It's where other like places and climates would have, a different weather, but we just kind of have a meh weather because it's not really hot and it's not really cold, but it also isn't like nice. It's just meh. So at least it's not hot or cold. Hello, Virginia in Texas. Grin Without a Cat. Okay, you're working on a Grin Without a Cat. I like that one. I don't know if y'all have figured out yet, but there's actually a series there. And it's actually, have I finished the series? I honestly don't know myself. Let me go look, because Grin Without a Cat, even though the writing on it is very like the instructions are very, very different. Grin Without a Cat is essentially almost the same thing as Impulse Buy. It's just that it's got that mesh in a different location. Impulse Buy is like a simplified version of Grin Without a Cat, because in Impulse Buy, the yarn overs are going along the neckline, and then in Grin Without a Cat, I shifted them down and they run through the body of the shawl. And I was just thinking, because I had planned on doing one that they went along the bottom of the shawl, and I don't remember if I ever did that. Shoot the Moon is sort of that, but not really. Yeah, I never did actually finish that part. I get easily distracted. Easily distracted. Hello, Anna in Alberta, Canada. Oh, hey, Brian. I know you. Brian is one of our local knitters. Super exciting. He built a sock knitting machine with a 3D printer, which is really kind of just bonkers. My son has 3 or 4 3D printers now, and as far as I know, the only thing he's building with his 3D printer is more 3D printer. It's whenever I ask him what he's making, it's another part for the printer itself. So there's that. Uh, oh, Elizabeth, you just took some pictures of the completed shawl. Thank you. You take lovely pictures, and I really appreciate it. And that's not saying that, I'm not trying to like in any way insult people who maybe don't feel like they have the best pictures, but I love seeing pretty pictures of shawls that people have knit with my patterns. Golfer, what do you say? Is Montreal on my bucket list? Um, Hello, Ducky in Alaska. Hey, my sister was in Alaska for months. She's a travel nurse, and she was in, I think she was in Sitka. I don't know. It was like down at the bottom part. But she was there for quite some time. Yes, I want to go to, I've only been to Canada and briefly, like for like less than 24 hours, and it was to visit a friend, and I drove up from Seattle to Vancouver. So yeah, I want to go to Vancouver. I want to go to Montreal. I even want to go to Quebec. um I don't know if Toronto is on my list, but I would love to go. I want to go everywhere ish. There are a couple places I don't want to go. I don't want to go to Antarctica. It's really cold there, and it smells like fish. I have that on authority because my mom went on a cruise, and she's like, it just smells like fish. Hello, hey, Lisa in Saskatchewan. That is the definition of middle of nowhere, I believe. One of my knitting friends is from Saskatchewan. Oh, you have good weather for Mardi Gras. Excellent. Hello, Cindy. How are you doing in Pennsylvania? Oh, two Pennsylvanias. Bang, bang. Brenda, do you know Cindy? She's right there next to you. Ants are bringing out dirt to the top, so that means rain. Well, that's interesting. It's weird. So you said something about dirt, and I just had this conversation. One of the really weird things, because I lived in Atlanta for 20 years, and when I moved here, um, it really wigged me out a little bit because dirt daubers. Do you know dirt daubers? You know dirt daubers. Dirt daubers are those little waspy critters that build the little things up in the edges, and they shove them full of dead spiders for future purposes. I don't know what they have for their spider things. And I kept seeing my mom's house because she has like a portico. And I was like, what is all that black stuff up there? What is all that black stuff up there? And at some point I realized those are dirt daubers. Those are mud wasps. It just looked weird to me because it was black, because the dirt here is black. Whereas for 20 years, whenever I saw a mud dauber's nest, it was red because Georgia has red clay dirt. So it's so strange to me, and I still have a hard time. Like if you see an anthill, I'm used to anthills being very readily identifiable because they're red. And down here, it's kind of this sand black dirt mix, and it's just, to me, it's just wrong. I have not adjusted to it yet. But let me tell you one thing that was great. Like I moved all my gardening stuff down here, and I had like a post hole digger and a mattock and a rototiller and all of these things to try to break up the earth. And down here, you just need a shovel. You're like, and I'm like, what is this? What do you mean I don't have to spend 45 minutes pre-digging the thing so that I can then put a shovel in it? Because I was used to essentially working in concrete. So that was a strange thing. And we're talking about dirt here. So add that to the list of weird things I talked about. Onoclea? So Onoclea is the first. Elizabeth just asked if Onoclea was one of it. No, Onoclea, the lace goes along the neckline as well. Onoclea was the first of the lace along the neckline patterns that I created. I think it was the first one. Yes, the first one was Onoclea, and then I did Argyroneta. And for both of those, and also impulse buy fits into that category. What the idea was is when you see side to side triangular shawls, and even it's very, very traditional or typical for you to have a large swath of the solid whatever it may be it garter or a texture or stockinette, and then you get a lace trim along the bottom, typically. You also have all over lace, obviously, but there's like you've got like all over lace and you've got lace trim and not a whole lot in between. And when I first decided to do Onoclea, what my thought was is how can we move what is traditionally the lace trim and put it up around the neck? Because the way I wear shawls, I wrap and I see a lot of people that are wearing shawls less just as one big shawl with it draped across the back where you would see that beautiful trim. I like having it with the lace up around the neck as opposed to on the thing. So it made it more of a necklace of lace is how I thought about it. So I had to do math and figure out how to get that lace. And especially, I mean, it's challenging for myself because these side to side triangles are worked on a bias. That means that the whole thing is moving. It's not just, you can see side to side triangles that are just more like right angles where you're just increasing one stitch every other row. So you've got a straight line on the top and then a straight line here. And then your bind off is a straight line. It's asymmetrical, but it's like a straight triangle. I like curves and I like movement, and I especially like curves that go around the neck, which is why I prefer what is typically considered the boomerang shape, which is you start at the point and you're increasing on the leading edge and decreasing on the trailing edge, which creates this biased fabric, which drapes beautifully. And it also moves it from a triangle to this boomerang shape that curves. I have one straight triangle that's the side to side, and that is the Outlander one is a straight triangle. La Dame Blanche. Let me see if I can show you this picture. Huh? Or maybe it isn't. I thought it was straight, but apparently it wasn't. It's curvy. Never mind. It's old. I can be forgiven. It's from 2016, so I didn't actually remember. I mean, I remember knitting it. That shawl took a long time to knit. Tracy, opinion on a variegated yarn for Rev It Up. Rev It Up should be able to handle a decent amount of variegation. The slip stitches are going to move the color nicely. It will, as always, obfuscate the pattern. I wouldn't go hog wild on the variegation, but it should handle some tonality and some variegation. Is my guess. I'm afraid is where we are. It's guessing time because I don't 100% know, but I think it'll be okay. Oh, hello, Joke. Glad to see you. Hello, Tri-Spiral in Maryland. Elizabeth, you said thank you. I have no idea what you're thanking me for, but you're welcome. Mud daubers. Yes, Tracy. Mud daubers is definitely a word that I know as well. It's a little chilly here for them. Yeah, the mud wasps are really, really creepy. Thank you for coming in and saying hi, Joke. Wow. My golfer. Quick question, can we do a tubular Italian sewn bind off on a 1x1 twisted rib? I have not the earthliest idea. I don't even know what that is. Tubular Italian sewn bind off. I have never done. I really despise sewn bind offs with a passion. And for a very, very specific reason. It's not because they're not good, and it's not because they're not beautiful. It's because you have to cut your yarn. And if I guess wrong about how much yarn I need to do the sewn bind off, I'm borked. And I just don't like sewn bind offs. And it's really just for that reason. It's because same reason I don't like using the long tail cast on very much, because I don't like estimating the tail. I don't like estimating how much yarn I'm going to need to bind off that sewn bind off. I've used a sewn bind off in one pattern once, and I tried 6 different bind offs before I was like, no, this is what it has to be, because it was a lace piece and it just needed, it's what it had to be. And I despised it, but it was only a scarf, so it was only about this wide. So it wasn't that bad. Oh, bye, Alex. Thank you for joining. Friday morning. Woo! Excellent. You can watch the rerun. So, where'd my brain go? Okay, do we have any questions? So, yes, we had a question that I have like 0 answer for, unfortunately. I don't know how stable it is. I really don't know anything about the bind off. You can try, see, and that's the thing. You can't just try some and then like do something else if it doesn't work, because you're gonna have to cut your yarn. I don't know. I'm just looking at myself. I need to trim my side hair. It's getting a little fluffy. Look at these little curls. It's not cooperating at all. Okay. It's Karen. I love you, Karen. Swatch. Make a little swatchy swatch. That's the only way to find out. I mean, really and truly. Now, somebody on the Facebook. Let me check. I was trying to think of having something prepared. Somebody on the Facebook asked about the Missy Babs yarn. Jennifer Kuhn Heel. And she was thinking of using, she said that she was, again, like a variegated question, is this going to work? Hurricane season was definitely just designed to use variegated yarn. And she pointed out that she showed her skein of Land of the Sky is a special edition. And it reminded me that I bought a skein of it. And I completely forgot that I did it. And thank you, Karen. At least she knows. So this is, again, this is the Land of the Sky. And this was a yarn that Miss Babs died to, she donated a portion of the proceeds to the victims of the hurricane when Helene just destroyed her area, because she lives in eastern Tennessee, and then that eastern Tennessee, North Carolina area just got clobbered by that hurricane. And so I was like, an excuse to buy yarn. Yay. I'm going to compare it to what she got. So this is a really fascinating thing. Different yarn, different colors look different on different yarn bases. Even wool, different wools, like superwash versus non-superwash, merino versus BFL versus undefinable wool, they come out differently. And I'm looking at the Facebook page, and hers definitely has more light color in it. And I think she got Yummy 2-ply. I decided to get Katahdin 437 because I absolutely adore, this is 100% superwash Blueface Leicester. And I adore Blueface Leicester. Blueface Leicester is a breed specific yarn. It's just like saying merino, except for it's a different sheep. It is not quite as soft as merino, but it by no means is itchy. It's just not that super softy soft. But what it is it has this matteness to it. It doesn't have a shine like merino does. It kind of absorbs light. And in doing that, it gives it this incredibly rich, deep color that I absolutely adore. And you can see here, this is what I got. It is a heavy lace weight. Um, so this is 437 yards in 100 grams. So it's a little thinner. You would consider it, I would consider it like a light fingering, um, or a heavy lace. This is actually the yarn I knit Headless Roses out of, but the full size skein. This is actually essentially a half or even more of a portion of a skein, but I just really liked it and I got it and I got to figure out what to knit with it. Okay, LPGA. Hi, Karen. I tried it. Wait a minute. No, I tried it on a swatch and it looked acceptable, but I do not know if it looks like what it's supposed to. The only question is, did you like how it looked? Because it's your project and it's yours. And even if it looks different than what somebody else planned for it, if you like it and if it works for you, then looks exactly the way it's supposed to look. I mean, that's what I would say to that. You can always substitute in bind offs and cast ons and stuff, as long as and we've discussed this, as long as you understand what you're doing. But if it looks good and if it's doing what it's supposed to do, if you can block it the way you need to block it, or if it's not, like, it's 1x1 ribbing, so I'm assuming it's supposed to pull in, as long as it allows it to stretch as much as it needs to stretch, then you're good to go. Oh, Elizabeth, you doubled it in your Grin shawl. Oh, so you use the BFL, you use Katahdin. I adore this yarn. Brian, you just finished your Sempervirens cardigan in Katahdin. You adore it. Took ages. Sempervirens, y'all, that is some lag time on that one. But that shawl, that cardigan is that cardigan is beautiful. Okay, it is beautiful. The construction of it is for people who like a challenge. Is what I'm gonna say about that. It is a beautiful thing, and sometimes to create a beautiful thing, you gotta sweat some bullets. But I'm so excited that you got it finished. You're on a needle felting kick. Hey, you know what? Stabbing stuff, lots of fun. I've done a little bit of needle felting in my lifetime. It did not grab my attention the way that knitting did, but needle felting is a lot of fun. Yours was 10.2 grams. I don't understand that statement, Elizabeth, but very cool. I don't know. See, and I don't know if this is thin enough to be considered lace weight. I've been thinking about, and y'all can tell me if I'm absolutely bonkers. I like scarves. I enjoy scarves. I enjoy knitting scarves, even though they're just giant rectangles. And when I say scarf, I mean like a scarf, not I'm going to mark this as scarf in Ravelry so people might accidentally stumble across it and decide they like it better. I'm talking about a scarf, something that's somewhere between 6 and 8 feet long and around, 6 to 8 inches wide. A scarf, a rectangle that's really long. I like scarves. It's one of my things. Oh, huge skein of Katahdin. Yes. When I Elizabeth, when I knit Headless Roses, and I contacted Babs and worked with her on it, and Helen asked me if I wanted them to wind it. I was like, yes, 100%. Please wind this yarn. And it came, and I called it the pony keg. You know how we call them cakes of yarn? I'm like, this would be the pony keg of yarn. It's just absolutely ridiculous. When I finished Headless Roses, I had 60 grams left over. Like, that were 60 grams. Those are my leftovers. was 60 grams. It was so much yarn. Absolutely gorgeous. Love it. Oh no, stitch itch. Do not do that part. Yeah, don't stab your finger. Stab other things. Okay, so there are tutorials on tubular bind off for twisted rib. You know what? I don't even know that I have even seen a tubular bind off. You know, I just Oh, they're the ones to make it look like ribbing goes around. That is a layer of finesse that I have not delved into. That is a finesse layer that it's just I always, and I think everyone does, people weigh how much they like the effect of something versus how much of their brain power it's going to take, and you just have to decide how much brain power you're willing to invest and how much, because many times when people are like, oh, this solves X problem, and I'm like, I didn't even know that was a problem, so I have not looked for a solution for it. And but even when I say that, it makes me think of people who have commented on patterns that I have written that said that I put a slip stitch edging because I like the look of slip stitch edgings. And they'll be like, people say somebody, and I don't say this, people say that garter edges are ugly. I prefer the look of garter edges. And why waste my time slipping stitches? And I'm like, you do you, okay? If you don't like, if you don't see that the visual appearance of a garter edge is a problem, then you don't need to use my solution for that. I don't actually see the garter edge as a problem either. I just prefer the look of a slip stitch edge. But if you don't, and if you don't like doing them, don't do them. So it's just kind of like the tubular bind off solves a problem that I don't personally have. But I can acknowledge that it is absolutely elegant and looks absolutely lovely. And I applaud those who that's something that they put into their designs. So there's that. I drew blood, but my bunny is ridiculously cute. Oh, that sounds painful. Um, that sounds absolutely painful. Okay, so I got a comment on one of my videos, and I saw it. I don't know when the comment occurred. Over the last couple days, I saw it today, and I actually screenshotted it so that I could share it with y'all. Um, I'm gonna show it. Okay, there it is. Right? This was on my instructional video for the expandable lace bind off. And it says, how can this be considered a lace bind off when there's no evidence of lace when you look at it? And I looked at the question and I was like, okay, I can understand. I can understand the question. And what I responded is they said, how could I because it took me a while to figure out what was being asked there. And what I realized is when this person saw the name of the video and looked at the video, they thought this is going to be a lacy bind off, a bind off that has lace in it. And it's not a lacy bind off. Those do exist. A picot bind off would be considered a lacy bind off. And then I try, I try my best to reply, and that's what I said. I said, "Oh, it is not. At no point did I say this is a lacy bind off. This is a bind off for lace." And the reason why you might need a lace bind off, and it's just a really stretchy bind off, is because if you're knitting very elaborate lace, when you go to block it, you're going to have to stretch that bind off like significantly. And if you have used a bind off that doesn't have that extra give in it, it's going to actually constrict your ability to block your piece to be as beautiful and lacy as you want it to be. And so I tried to explain that in the comment. And I said it's a lace bind off. It's a bind off for lace. And then I said, I was like, for example, duck sauce doesn't have any ducks in it. It is a sauce for ducks. Like if you're eating duck, this is the sauce. There's no duck in duck sauce. It's not a sauce made out of ducks. It is a sauce for a duck dish. That is what duck sauce is. And it's kind of like Girl Scout cookies aren't made of actual Girl Scouts. So it's just the language. Our language is so strangely at the same time very, very specific and very, very up to interpretation. So I just thought that was a really funny question, and totally legit question, because if you look at it from this angle, I totally see where this viewer was like, what their expectations were and why they weren't met. I'm not saying that they were wrong to have those expectations, but it's not. But I wasn't wrong because I wasn't presenting a lacy bind off. I was producing a lace bind off. So there it is. Hello, Michelle. Yeah. You know what? If we can't laugh right now, what can we do? We just gotta go. But I thought that was funny. So I'm glad y'all thought it was funny too, because I was like, it's not duck sauce. But I gotta walk a fine line between the fact that I'm just trying to have fun and being a smart aleck, because there's a difference between sassy and snarky, and I really want to stay on the sassy side, especially in responses to people. I mean, y'all get a little bit of snarky, but we're all friends here. But when I'm writing it for posterity, I try to stick with the sassy. You finished your frog? Well, that's good. Oh, scarves. Thank you, Elizabeth. See, Elizabeth is here to keep me on point. Yes. So I have been thinking, I want to knit a scarf, a lace weight scarf, not a lacy scarf. It kind of ties into what I was talking about. It would be a textured scarf, nothing with any holes or anything in it, but a scarf in lace weight yarn, a very fine scarf that maybe, I mean, something maybe even a little bit fuzzy. I don't know. Would anybody be interested in knitting a scarf out of lace weight on like size 2 needles? And that's what I'm talking about. Not an open scarf, not using lace weight on really big needles to make it go fast. I'm talking about, the reason I ask is because I was in a knitting store once in Atlanta, and this woman was sitting at the table, and she was lovely. And I knew her. I think she was in the guild, and she was wearing this scarf that was just, I was fascinated by it. It was absolutely beautiful. And it was kind of a herringbone effect. And it was in this really, 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 really fine yarn. And so taking a texture that is typically seen almost as like a masculine texture, or something that's very, and I don't mean the letter of this word, but the spirit of this word, something tweedy. I don't know if that makes something, I don't want to say rustic. I want to say something, because I mean, it made you, if I said a wool coat with leather elbow pads, something professorial, that masculine, old fashioned kind of, you look at it and it smells like a pipe in your brain kind of vibe, that kind of masculine vibe. So find a texture that's like that, but knit it out of this super, super, super fine, beautiful, delicate lace weight yarn. And I just think the juxtaposition of those two things could be really, really fun and elegant, but it's going to be a freaking lace weight scarf on like size 1 or 2 needles, which is going to be just not everyone's cup of tea. But in this discussion, if it was tea, it would be Earl Grey, hot. But hello, Joan. Mohair. Oh, I would have to kill somebody. Okay, so Tracy is approving my lace weight scarf. Well, the thing is I was thinking if it was lace weight, then it could definitely be something that you could wrap around your neck more than once, and it would be less. I mean, it would just have it totally. It just would go against everything that we think of when we think of a scarf. You think of bulky. You think of presence. I don't know, Debbie, that I would go with mohair, but maybe an alpaca, like a fine alpaca lace might be really nice. I don't know. I just got to think about it. But yeah, it would be a lot of knitting. Okay, LPGA. Question for summer knitting. Is knitting with cotton yarn as difficult on the hands as linen? Yes. Is the fast and easy answer to that question. Linen and cotton present the same challenges when it comes to knitting. Michelle, that's the thing. I'm like, I don't know, like maybe if I started today, I'll be done in like 6 years. I really don't know. It's just would be a lot of knitting. I don't know. I got to come up with it. So there are cotton yarns because it's not just about fiber. And that's something that I think I've talked about it before, but I don't know that it's talked about enough because, yes, our primary consideration when we're looking at our yarn is the fiber content of it. That is going to have the largest impact on how it knits, how it works, how you care for it, etc., etc. But yarn structure, the physical structure of the yarn also plays a very large part. And so there are cotton yarns that the way they're created are not as hard on the hands because of how they're spun and because of the structure of the yarn. Because the thing that makes linen and flax and hemp and silk and cotton hard on your hands is because the yarn, the fiber itself has no give. It has no stretch. It's not like an animal fiber that pulls and gives when you tension it. It's you're knitting with plant. You're knitting with something that has no give to it. But there are fiber structures that cotton yarns can come in that provide that give and make it less difficult or challenging for people who that is a challenge for them. The one specific yarn I would say that has a very nice, relatively soft hand that's not as aggressive, like as tight, is the Blue Sky organic cotton. Has a very loose spin to it, and it's very fluffy, and so it's not as bad. It's not as nice. It's not as forgiving to work with as a plant, an animal fiber would be, but it is not as challenging to work with as a peaches and cream would. Peaches and cream is a dishcloth cotton. It has a very, very tight spin. It doesn't give at all. It is not soft. It is rough on the hands. It's a dishcloth cotton. Like it's made to be made into dishcloth. They don't expect you to knit anything bigger than this out of it. And it's meant to stand up to being used as a dishcloth. So it is a rough and ready kind of thing. Now, linen, I personally have not experienced a whole lot of linen yarns that have enough of a different structure to ameliorate their tension issues. So cotton can be more forgiving in its way than linen simply because it comes in a wider variety, in my experience, of yarn structures. So it's not just about the fiber, it's about the structure. Did that make any sense? Debbie Welsh. I've knit Stephen West shawl a size 3 needle. You know what? I've found that Stephen West fans will do just about anything for that man. He has earned their trust and they will do it. Yes, Karen, the chainette construction is one of the ones that makes a plant yarn easier. I always hesitate to say plant yarn because the thing is it's plant yarns and silk. Because silk has almost all the same characteristics as the plant yarns when it comes to this sort of thing, but it's not made out of a plant. So it's a little rough. Oh, thank you, Stitch Itch. If you haven't given me a thumbs up, if you haven't said you like being in here, just click the little button because YouTube likes it. Um, oh yes, Mary Ellen said that Knit Picks dishes is so much nicer to knit with than peaches and cream. It is. It is much nice. It's just softer. It's a softer yarn. But that said, because it's a softer yarn, it is going to last not as long in its actual application if you are making an actual dishcloth out of it. Now, if you're making a face cloth, not a problem. But if you're going to be using this thing to like scrub dishes, peaches and cream is still essentially the Brillo pad of the knitting world. So it's a really, really it does what it is supposed to do very, very well. I think that when people run into problems with peaches and cream is when they try to get it to be something that it's not. You cannot make an apple pie out of strawberries. It just doesn't work. Dishy, yeah, it's a good yarn. Dishy, it's kind of funny. My old knitting group in Atlanta used to like once a year would get together and get a group knit picks order so that we wouldn't have to pay for all the shipping and just order a whole bunch of dishy. And then we would spend like 2 weeks making dishcloths and then everybody had dishcloths. So it was like just one of the things we did. It was super fun. Um, ooh, I missed the suggestion. Tracy, going against the norm sounds like you. Yeah, I'm bad. I'm bad. And the thing is sometimes I try to do something different, and what I find when I try to do it is, oh, there's a reason why it's done that way. And I realized that it was a bad choice. So it's not always successful, but it's always try to make something, stand things on their head a little bit, see what shakes out. People might have good stuff in their pockets. Um, okay. It'd be the last pattern I ever sell. It would be really. You know what? But I've knit. What did I knit? How many yards? It would probably be similar. People do lace weight shawls. So Cito. What is the yardage on Cito? Cito is 756 yards. So, but I did that on a US 5 because that was lace and it was supposed to be lacy. So this is Cito. I think we looked at this a little while ago because somebody asked about lace. But see how fine it is? There's something just I just love lace weight yarn. I rarely knit with it. But I don't know that I would need that's on a 5. I don't know how much yardage I would need for a full-size scarf. Um I had fun with this photo shoot. The wind was just right. It was blowing enough to pick well, the the smallest little breeze would pick up this because it was so, so fine. but I had a lot of fun with this, um, and you can see how I had to get at an angle because if you went straight down on it, actually it was almost see-through because of how fine the lace was. But I knit this and it took me, well, a long time. You can see how many pictures I uploaded. You can really tell how successful my shoot was by the number of pictures that I upload to Ravelry. Um, so this model, this lovely woman was someone who worked with me at the yarn store, and she's actually a retired circus performer. She was one of the women who would, like, ride around on horses, like, she would stand on the backs of horses, and I don't know if she did trapeze, I don't know, she was a circus performer. So, and it's not that's not unusual here in Sarasota, but it is cool. It's not cooperating with me. So, okay, yeah. I'm just looking at that. I'm looking at that. Um, do I know what mercerized did for cotton? You know what? I have a video on cotton because I did know at one point in time. It is not currently in my random access memory. It has definitely been put into cold storage. Mercerization, it smooths it and it makes it shiny. But and I think it makes it stronger? I'm not 100% sure on that. Again, something I had in my brain at one point in time, but it has been filed as not needed at this particular moment. Let me get the link. One thing I do know is that mercerization is not typically done. Okay, there's the cotton one. Mercerization is not typically done to finer or softer cottons. Typically, you're not going to have like a fine Egyptian cotton or something go through the mercerization process because it's really fine. It's really fine cotton, and what they do to it, the mercerization kind of eliminates that. So it's like taking something expensive and then making it less expensive. So you don't want to. I don't think they do that very much. It'd be like taking like actual like gold something and then like electroplating it with silver. It's just not a good chance. It's I mean, can you do it? Yeah, you can do it. Is there a good reason to do it? I don't know. I doubt it. That. Oh, LPGA, I'm glad you like it. I like that. I like that pattern. Um it was for a it was for like a sock club kind of situation. So, um, so it was very unusual for me. A very different piece. It was me doing something with a very strange shape. I don't normally mess with constructed shapes very often. Um, and it's not the shape as is not a very wearable shape. Except for its size. Like, if you downscaled that, you're not gonna it's gonna be very challenging to wear it because the shape of it is not a typical shawl shape, but because of how big it is and its lace weight, you can wrap it and you can wear it. Am I stuttering to you guys, like, visually? Because I think maybe I'm getting throttled a little bit. It's a little strange. My speed is doing weird things. Um Is everybody still there? I feel like something's going weird. Hmm. Anybody there? Yay, Cindy's here. Bo Bar is here. Okay, excellent. I was having a moment there. I was having a moment. I'm when I glance up, I try my best to look at the webcam so that I'm looking at you guys. And so you feel like that like I'm talking to you because I am talking to you. But when I glance down at myself and I'm like doing a hand gesture and it goes across the screen, it's a little weird. So that's good. Hello, kitten. Thank you. Hey, Mary Ellen. Oh, sewing it ends. Sewing it ends is one of those things. You can't not do it. Um, except for certain designers who don't and say, "I'm just gonna call them tassels or fringe." It's fringe. It's and that's awesome. Okay. So do we have any questions? Can we come up with some questions? I know it's been a short month. You just got the Facebook notification there's less than 10 minutes to our live. Oh yeah. Good job, Facebook. Gold star. Um, hey Joan. Ooh, new knitting needles. For people who react to brass metal, CNIT just came out with the new lines of curved bamboo needles that have stainless steel instead of brass. That is a very interesting thing. Okay. I think we've discussed these CNIT needles before. Very cool though. Yeah, I have issues with brass. I'm not allergic to it or anything, but man, it makes my hands smell funny. I definitely prefer things. Elizabeth, that is not a knitting question, Elizabeth. So, our knitting our plan to move is still in the planning stages, and it is a little bit frustrating because there's honestly not a whole lot we can do until we get closer to the date because um we can't really like I can't contact someone in Seattle and say, "Hey, I see you have this 3-bedroom, 2-bath that we want to rent available. Will you rent it to me starting July and just not get any money for it for the next few months when somebody else could be paying for it?" They people won't do that. So there's a lot of uncertainty that makes me very nervous, anxiety kind of situation, but there's literally just not a whole lot we can do about it. We do need to get on the ball about getting our house here ready to go, but currently my house is deep in throes of robot competition. My son has been on the robotics team since 6th grade, and it's the reason why he chose the high school that he's currently going to. And this is his last year and his last competition, and it is in March. So it is over spring break, and he will go to Orlando and compete with his robot that he and his robot team has been building. And it's kind of funny because I know that um, it's definitely a very nerdy thing to do, and people think about it, "Oh, yeah, it's robots." Well, starting in January, I mean, so for the first semester, and they were just in planning, they can't do anything like really specific because they don't announce what the challenge is until the beginning of January. So robotics was Tuesdays and Thursdays. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, he stayed until 5 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that when they do robotics. They announced the robotics challenge uh, at just before school started, and now, since school has started in January, Monday through Thursday, he stays so he gets out of school at 2:15. So from 2:15 till 5 o'clock, he is in robotics, and he also goes to robotics on Saturday. And like last night, um he was at robotics until 10 o'clock. So it's very much just the same as your whatever sports ball team practicing for whatever playoff kind of situation they're doing, except for he doesn't get to have multiple games leading up to it. It's a one and done. It's they build this robot, they do the best they can, and they get to go to one competition, and that's it. The team is so new that there really isn't even any prospect of them moving on to the next level. It's just something. This is only the fourth year that they've participated in, because his freshman year they switched from the first robot from Vex Robotics to First Robotics, which is a completely different system, and they're competing against schools that have had a First Robotics team for 15 years, and they just build on the knowledge. So they're at the beginning, they're babies. So pretty much it's all robotics all the time at my house. So once robotics is over, then we can start looking at working on our house and getting it ready to go. You know what? The pre-packing is definitely, I've been contemplating getting a storage unit, um, and actually pre-packing. My problem is, I we're gonna have to unpack before we repack, because I need to go through stuff in the garage and figure out if, because I have this thing that, if it's been in the garage for the last 7 years and I haven't needed what was in that box, do I actually need what's in that box? So that is definitely on the list of things to do. A kitten, I am. I'm very proud of the man that he is becoming. I don't get to go to the competition. This has always been a very dad son kind of thing, which I'm okay with, because also one of the issues is they have to be gone for pretty much the week. And if I went, then we would have to figure out pet sitting situation. And it's easier for them to go and be manly men together than to do robot stuff. You know what? It isn't even the manliness, it's the tech stuff. I don't understand any of it. And I am happy to allow my son and husband to have this between themselves. But they'll tell me what's going on. Your niece does robotics. That is awesome. Oh, thank you, Mary Ellen. Okay, Michelle Hamilton, do you happen to know what being a test knitter involves? Whew. Mm, test knitting. Let's talk about test knitting. So test knitting is something that has evolved, and it is something that is relatively new in the knitting industry. And Elizabeth's 100% right. What test knitting involves, it totally depends on the designer, because test knitting is not like an official part of anything. As far as how things are done in the knitting industry and in the fiber industry. Um, oh gosh, there's so much. So much has changed in the knitting industry since, let's say, the early 2000s, that it's kind of mind-boggling. The industry has become completely and utterly, if you had a professional knitwear designer from the 1980s and teleported them here and tried to start explaining to them how the industry works, they would not believe that it is the same thing. 80s and 90s up until the really, it's the internet that changed everything. The way that the knitting industry worked is, if you went back again to the late 80s, early 90s, and asked someone who their favorite knitwear designer was, I would bet you dollars to donuts that a good 50% of the avid knitters that you asked wouldn't have been able to name you the name of a single knitwear designer, okay? Because, like, the magazines didn't even list the names of the designers. That was a fight that had to be fought to get credit, for designers to get credit. Um, and but then they did. And then there was this huge fight where it was almost unheard of for a designer to retain any form of copyright or right to their own work. When a magazine commissioned something, when they made something for a company, that became the property of the company that commissioned it. That designer had absolutely no rights to it. They may or may not even get their name put on it. But the internet changed everything, and specifically it started with, like, Knitty, but specifically Ravelry changed everything because Ravelry provided a format for designers to connect directly with the knitting public. It cut out the middleman. Um, so the knitting magazines and the knitting industry, um saw designs as commodities, as interchangeable commodities, and the only purpose of, um, knitting patterns was to sell yarn. So if your design did not fit the need of the knitting of the company or the magazine, it was never just ever gonna get seen, because there was no venue to publish it. And when I say that yarn companies saw knitting patterns as a commodity and designers as interchangeable. I say that because someone said it to my face. Okay? I'm not telling tales. I was in a meeting at an industry event, and a representative of the yarn company sat up at the table and said that designers did not deserve to be full members of this organization because designs were a commodity, not a product. Okay? So um the industry has changed a huge, and so I want to say this, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I want to say how much I is fantastic. How wonderful it is that the internet made all of these changes, and that Ravelry gave the designers, and Knitty did this as well, an ability to connect directly with the knitters, and gave designers the ability to steer their own vision and all these kinds of things, and that kind of thing. But at the same time, the internet enabled people like me to become a knitwear designer. And I literally had been knitting for a year, and I published my first pattern. Now, I approached it in a very specific way. I approached it in the way I'd always been told, as far as you dress for the job you want, not the one you have. And so I attempted to approach the whole thing in a very professional way. I spent a lot of time researching what it is I needed to do, and in the process of designing a pattern. And it's, you have to do the layout and design, and you have to knit it, and you have to pay a tech editor to professionally edit the pattern. Okay. And you're like, but we were talking about test knitters, and that's where test knitters come in. The bar to entry to publishing a knitting pattern is so very, very low. You have to have yarn, knitting, the ability to use Microsoft Word, and push publish as a PDF. That's all you really have to do. Ravelry doesn't vet it in any way, shape, or form. And um, people who are wanting to become knitwear designers, they're brand new. And they don't have a lot of capital to invest in this situation. So a lot of times they wanted, and this is in the past, okay? I'm trying to establish how this evolved. I'm not saying that this is it, it's just how it evolved. A lot of designers, well, a lot of potential designers, instead of paying money to a tech editor, either because they didn't know tech editors existed or because they just couldn't afford it, turned to their knitting friends to test knit their pattern and give them feedback. Okay. That is where test knitters came from. It's me getting my friends, and I will tell you that I did, when I first got started, have a couple people knit my things just to make sure it made sense, but I also paid a tech editor. The things can very much go hand in hand. Okay, I'm going to pause myself and see. So but really, test knitting really kind of started as a concept to for people to avoid paying a tech editor. Um, and a lot of people are of the opinion that it shouldn't be an instead of, it should be an in addition to. Karen Aubrey, I've never test knit. It seems like a fun club experience or disaster experience. You know what? I don't know how test knitting works now. Okay? Because I don't do it. Um, for many, many reasons that I probably shouldn't commit to permanent video. So now test knitting has evolved into a step that a lot of designers incorporate into their process. And it's not instead of tech editing, it's a whole different thing. It is getting knitters to try out their pattern, to give them feedback on the how it's written and the flow of it and content. I mean, realistically, the pattern should be fully tech edited before it goes to test knitters. And then once a test knitter has it, what they're more looking at is flow in functionality, and especially in sized garments, testing and making sure that different sizes do what they actually are supposed to do. But the other huge function that it serves is marketing. It is because you will find that there are now designers who you have to apply to be one of their test knitters, and they're going to look at your Instagram, and they're going to look at your Facebook, and they're going to look at what social media presence you have. They're going to look at what kind of photographs you post, and they are going to select from the applicants the ones that are going to have the largest reach for them on a marketing from a marketing standpoint. Because what it is it's to get excitement about the pattern going. You're going to be required to make a Ravelry page. You're going to be required, you got to take pictures, you got to do all kinds of things, and you're going to have to hold to their time frame. So it's about helping that designer be seen in this whole sea of designers that are doing it. So it's just so test knitting is about a lot of different things. Um, and it came from a very interesting place. And it's something that if you want to do it, and if it sounds fun to you, I encourage you to do it. I encourage you to um, carefully evaluate the designers that you choose to provide this service to, because I want you to know that your time is valuable. And typically, what you get in exchange is a free pattern and maybe some coupons for other free patterns. And what you're giving them is marketing exposure and feedback. So make sure that this is, and a lot of test knitters I've heard, they do it because they want to support and help that designer. Um, Test knitting has also gotten competitive, where it's more for the test knitter, certain test knitters, about being able to say that they've test knit for specific, more popular designers. And if that's what you like to do, you do you. I'm trying to provide all the information. Please, I hope that y'all are taking this. This is not coming from a place of criticism, or it's just, I like giving information, and I like giving full information, and I talk all the time, and that's what I do. So I personally don't use test knitters because it really doesn't fit in my design flow. The chunk of time between when I get the info, like all of the corrections back from my tech editor, and when I published the pattern, is like maybe a week. I don't have a lot of really good designers, and really prolific designers have these really elaborate schedules where they know what they're going to be publishing 6-8 months out. I am a chaos designer. I design what I feel like designing and knit what I feel like knitting with at any given time. So I am just not organized enough to use test knitters. So there's I don't know if that answered your question, if it was too much. Okay. Dominique, I have 3 hanks of Malabrigo Rios in different colors, and I would like to ask what you would do with them. I am not an experienced knitter, so I'm not sure what to make. Try Spiral. I have only test knitted for designers, post tech edit, never for designers instead of. That is a fantastic thing to hear, because again, when I say that it was instead of, I'm talking about, this was like in 2010, 2000. This was a long time ago. Things have changed since then. I'm just giving you a how it evolved kind of situation. Confundo. Can you do Confundo in Rio? Is Confundo in Rios? My brain just left me. No, Confundo is in Miss Babs, which is DK. Rios is heavier, but I think people have done Confundo in Rios. Rios. Let me check. We're gonna share a screen. Share a screen. There we go. We're sharing a screen. Okay. Let's find Confundo. This is in Rios, but it takes more skeins. Did I already swim past it? There it is. Confundo. So if I go to Confundo and I go to Yarn Ideas, Rios. Okay. Yes. So 5 times. Rios can definitely be in Confundo. And it looks like they did not use the whole skeins. There we go. Yeah, Rios Confundo would be a great choice for. Good call, Elizabeth. So Rios is a worsted weight, and Yowza is a DK weight, which there is only a fine line between the two, and it's knit at a very loose gauge. So, and you can see that these people who used Rios, it seems to, they stuck with the 9. It's just going to make it a tiny bit more compact. But yeah, Confundo would be a great choice. So if you like shawls and this one looks nice to you, and it's a relatively straightforward slip stitch pattern. Don't want to push that button. I want to push button. There we go. I almost pushed end stream, but I caught myself. Mary Ellen, I do. I always want to know how we got to where we are. The whole fight for copyright happened before, and it's part of when I was working on becoming a designer. I spent a lot of time on Ravelry, and at that point in time, going to various and sundry different um, web blogs. It was back when blogs were still a thing, and trying to understand what I could figure out about the industry. One of the most vocal warriors for uh, designer rights was Ysolda Teague. And I think that her influence cannot be understated in what she was willing to do to fight for designers to get what they deserve and to be recognized for what they bring to the party. Um, so it was really fascinating, and it's fun because we think that things stay on the internet forever, but I don't know that I could even redo the research that I had to do to learn a bunch of these things, um, because people's blogs go away, and those kind of things, unless you know what you're looking for. I mean, the Wayback Machine only works if you have the old URL. So it was really fascinating to see how much Ravelry revolutionized the knitting industry. It it really I don't know a single yarn store that I have been in that has the giant binders of patterns anymore. Um, Almost every single yarn store I've been in to date uses the Ravelry local yarn store program. And that's why when you walk over to a little computer and they help you find a pattern and they sell that pattern to you through Ravelry. It is through the service, and it makes it so that the yarn store can carry literally hundreds of thousands of different patterns and find you what you need. And they are buying it for you through Ravelry. And it just, I'm sure that many of you are old enough to remember going into a yarn store and them there just being the binder after binder after binder after binder of paper patterns that you look through for inspiration. And the big change there is carrying capital, because for the yarn store, they would have to pick out the patterns that they guessed, GUESSED, that their patrons would like. And the vast majority of the companies that printed and sold paper patterns, you had to buy like a minimum of 3 copies of any given pattern. So that's a sunk cost. So that is money that they had to pay, that they bring in, and it's a product that sits on the shelf, and they may or may not make money back on that depending on whether or not somebody walks into their store and wants that pattern. And I have worked at yarn stores where we have had to go through the binders and just literally throw away patterns because they had gotten too dog-eared, because they had gotten too and nobody was buying them, and that is just money down the toilet. By using the Ravelry local yarn store program, you have none of that carrying cost. You don't have to, you can print out, if you have a customer that wants this one specific pattern that only 6 people in the entire world have ever even looked at on Ravelry, you can do it if the designer has allowed that functionality, and you can sell that, and it didn't cost you anything to carry that in your store. So it just really revolutionized that. Hello, Tina in Las Vegas. What fell off the needles too quickly? Oh, your confundo? Yarn Barn of Kansas and Lawrence has some binders, but more so Ravelry. There are, and honestly, I don't. I used to have a company that distributed my paper patterns, and they went out of business quite some time ago. I don't know of any. And Deep South Fibers just recently, well, about a year ago, they went out of business. So there are very, very few companies that are even printing paper patterns anymore. Most of the paper patterns that you're going to see in a yarn store are going to be from a yarn company. Like you can see Blue Sky does their own printed patterns. Cocoa Knits does her own printed pattern. So it's a designer doing it themselves if they've reached that point in ability. There was one point in time when I did print my own patterns, but it's too much. I still have patterns to this day in a box in my closet that I paid for and that have not ever been sold to anybody. But the binders, they're a thing and they're fun, and I really think paper patterns are a very good thing, especially for beginning knitters. A lot of the Church Mouse has a lot of really good patterns that you'll see paper patterns for. When they were around, Shibui had paper patterns, but the Shibui is no longer a function. Like Shibui is no longer Shibui. I think they were bought by somebody else, and somebody else is going to make their yarn, but they're not going to make their pattern line. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. And I mean, it's funny because I feel like I'm like back in the day, and realistically, I'm relatively new to knitting compared to people. I mean, so many people are like, yeah, I've been knitting for 50, 60 years. And I'm like, I started knitting in 2010. At this point in time, that's 2010. It's been 15 years. I guess it's been a long time. But it's all relative. I mean, people who have been knitting all their life, if I still feel like I'm relatively new to knitting. I still feel like I'm relatively, yeah, I still feel like I'm relatively new to knitting, because there's so many more people out there who have so much more experience than I do, have so much knowledge to share, and I do miss going to conventions and things like that, and learning from those people. I was talking to my husband about this the other night, that since COVID happened and then the needle industry, there's no longer a trade show and there's no longer stitches. And I have not been able to go to Rhinebeck. I feel very kind of detached from the community. That I used to feel very much a part of. And that's one thing I'm really looking forward to for this move to Seattle. My understanding is that Seattle has a really active knitting guild and a lot of different fun yarn stores. And I know that Portland has a crazy yarn situation. So I'm hoping to like re-engage a little bit. It's going to be fun. As much as I have enjoyed my time here in Sarasota and the people I've met are lovely, it really isn't like a mecca of knitting. is really not. People don't really come here to knit. People come here to go to the beach, and knitting and going to the beach don't really blend particularly well. Okay, do we have any questions? I need the question. The test knitter question was fun and challenging, and I hope I answered it. Who asked the test knitter question? Did I make you want to be a test knitter? Elizabeth answered it super fast and super easy. What does being a test knitter involves? It depends on the designer. It entirely depends. Every single designer has something different that they want. If they cannot communicate to you effectively what they want, I would question whether or not they can communicate effectively in their patterns. So if you're interested in it, find out what they're looking for, if that makes sense. If you don't understand what they're saying, then I'd be like, maybe I won't understand your pattern and I should find a different person. There are always options. You missed the Portland crafters. Tomorrow is the 9th anniversary of me moving away. Moving is rough. I miss my Atlanta crafters. I miss my Atlanta peeps. They were really fantastic. And they were with me when I learned how to knit. So it really, yes, it's rough. Um, do, 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 do. I'm trying to I'm looking at my questions. I have a whole list. Oh, I should do that. Um, Hello, Jeff Jorgensen. You're not from Minnesota, are you? How do I go from an idea to a pattern? It's Sue. Oh, hello, Sue. You're just logged in under somebody else. I totally understand. I actually we log into um the YouTube on my big TV on my husband's account so that we don't cross the streams. How do I go from an idea to a pattern? Swatching. Lots and lots and lots of swatching. Um I know that's not helpful. The thing I'm curious what you mean by an idea, because I think that for the vast majority, sorry, there's a fuzzball on the ground. Um, I think for a large percentage of designers, what I don't know what you mean by an idea, but an idea would be like a sketch that you come up with or that you want um or that you want to try to something you want to try to achieve, and then you try to figure out a way to achieve that thing. Like, I want to do a cardigan with a this or that or the other thing. And unfortunately, that's not the way I work. Um, I work kind of backwards. So I will start with a yarn, and then I swatch with it and figure out what that yarn is going to do well. And then I do different swatches with it. And then from that point, once I've got this is a fabric or this is something that I want, then I have to come up with an idea of what to do with it. Then I have to be like, is this going to be a cowl? Is this going to be a hat? Is this going to be a fingerless mitts? I don't know what it is. I showed y'all a swatch I made, and it's still sitting over there because it's not made it out of swatch land, because I feel like I've solidified what the stitch pattern looks like and how it's going to work, but I need to figure out what I'm going to make out of it. So I put the cart before the horse. I get all the elements or the bits and pieces together, and then I have to come up with an idea of what it's going to be. I don't really have any experience of starting with a sketch or an idea and then applying tools to make it come to life. Um, because I'm backwards. I'm sorry. Um, You start with yarn and colors, chart it, and then knit it and preferred frog. Yes, knit crochet tiger. That's very similar to what I do. I do use a computer. I use a charting software here. I will open up. I think y'all saw. What the heck? What is happening here? Being stupid. I'm sorry, my computer was being not good. Okay. So Tracy, that is an excellent analogy. I play with my yarn first, like a carver letting the stone or wood tell the artist what it is. Very much so. That is a fairly apt analogy, because I don't. I mean, so I guess like what I explained about Onoclea earlier. I guess I sometimes do have an idea where it's like I wanted the lace around the neck and then I have to figure out how to make it happen. Or what I just talked to y'all about this scarf. I have this idea. I guess I do have ideas sometimes. I have this idea that I want this idea. I guess I do have ideas sometimes. I have this idea that I want this really masculine textured scarf, but knit in a very fine, delicate lace weight yarn. So what I'll have to do from that point is I will have to figure out what yarn I want to use and then use that yarn and look through all of my stitch dictionaries and try to figure out what texture I want is going to work. And then what it is I'll have to pick out several textures. And because if like I'll be like, this is my favorite one, and I'll swatch it. And if it does not work, if it does not like that yarn, if they do not get along, I'll have a backup and I'll try that. And I'll look at why it didn't like that one. And then I'll try a different one. So stitch dictionaries are definitely something you very, very much need. You know what? I opened up a bad choice of something to show y'all. Let me go to okay, I think you guys saw this last week. So you asked if we do it. I did it on a computer. It doesn't like something. Okay. So this is my charting software, Sue. This is the charting software. So yes, so I create it and you can see here that it's gone. Actually, you can really see right here that you can almost see the color work. You can see the echo of it. And so this is, these are, I don't know what I was doing here. These guys do not need to be there. I think I was trying to figure out where the repeat was. So this is the basic lace pattern. And then I had to work. Oh, what's that? What did I do there? Who knows? And you can see what I named this. This one is après swatch. This is after swatch. This is after I did this swatch. I made modifications to it. Oh, I know what this is. How many? No, I don't know what this is. This is what happens when I let a couple weeks go by. I don't know what I was thinking. And then I end up having to swatch it again because I don't remember what I was thinking. This is, oh, I know what happened here. So this is the swatch. I'm pretty sure I showed you guys this swatch last month. But if you look at this swatch right here, so this is the main motif, like right there. But if you look here, you've got this interesting where the yarn, this shape here on either side of this vertical stripe was really interesting. So what I did is I isolated that out and I've made it into a repeat. And this is me, you can see how there's like columns here. This is me trying to decide how wide and what I want to do. Like, did I want to narrow it? What did I narrow? Who knows what I did? Oh, we got that versus, I don't know. I'm going to have to figure it out. And Why is this one over here? That doesn't belong there. That definitely doesn't belong there. Okay, do you see there what I just did? Let me undo it. So that was, I realized that this does not belong there. And I obviously copy pasted it. Or maybe it does belong there. Or it does. But, oh, here I'm thinking about not making it belong there and doing something different. Who knows what I was doing? But this is me trying to isolate. I need to swatch it because I really and truly have no idea what's going to happen. I do not know what it's going to look like. But that is, so I do a lot of work in that program. I'm doing a lot of it on the computer and going through ideas without actually knitting it before I get to a swatching point. So I've taken something out of a stitch dictionary and put it into the charting software, and then I start manipulating it and changing it and having fun with it. Is there an easy way to use a stitch dictionary like Barbara Walker's and convert the patterns into in the round knitting? So I use Barbara Walker's stitch dictionaries all the time. And the easiest way, and they're written, right? So the easiest way for me to convert them to working in the round is to make them into a chart. That is how I do it. I will take the charting software I just showed you and I will read out the instructions and I will physically copy the instructions and make a chart into it. And then once it's a chart, it's easy to figure out how things line up and to isolate it and create your repeat. Because the way that she writes her stuff, a lot of the times it's like repeat of 6 plus 3. And the way that the repeat is written, it's not like in a nice, easy little box. It's like staggered. So you have to chart the whole, I chart the whole thing. So if you have charting software, yes, that is a relatively easy thing to do. If you don't have charting software, you're going to have to do it with, I personally would have to do it with graph paper. I don't know how to transcribe that into knit in the round because of the way Barbara Walker wrote stuff. Specifically taking it, trying to translate something to in the round from written, if it's written for flat and written in the manner that she writes, I can't do that. It's hard. So it is hard, Mary Ellen. I hope it makes you feel better to know that I would have a difficult time just trying to do that. I use the charting software. If the yarn I pick doesn't want to be the pattern you're working out, do you change the yarn, change the pattern, or scrap and do something else? Yes. I have done all of those things. It depends on what I'm trying to do. If I very, very, very much want to use the yarn that I am using, or if I am actually collaborating with a yarn dyer and I am like obligated, or I've promised and obligated myself to using that yarn, then I will change the stitch pattern until I figure out what that yarn likes. Because at that point, it is my job to make that yarn happy. When Miss Babs sends me 3 skeins of Yowza to make something with, it is my job to do my best to create a pattern that Yowza is going to like. That is why we have Confundo. And that's a challenge and it's a puzzle and it's a lot of times fun. If I'm just designing something for myself, for my own personal wants and needs, and I really, really like that stitch pattern, I will try different yarns to see what yarn works best in that stitch pattern. So that is that. Are there times where it's just like, this idea is not gonna pan out? Yeah, I'll just chunk it. Because there is a point at which I've put too much time and effort into something that is just probably never gonna give me any kind of return on investment. So I do all of those things. Wait a minute. What am I a genius about, Mary Ellen? I don't know about that. I don't know about geniusy. Yay! Question answered for Sue. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was getting what you needed. Oh, that's cool. Karen says that Roxanne Richardson has a video on flat to in the round conversion. That is very cool. LPGA asked me, do I still knit patterns from other designers? Unfortunately, no, I do not. Haven't for many, many, many years. I knit a top, like a knit tee, a couple years ago. I have limited knitting time. And by that, I mean not that I don't have time to knit, but that I have how to explain this? Because I think some people, it's not that I'm like, oh, I have all these other things to do and I don't have the time to knit. Knitting takes concentration, focus. It takes me being in a specific mindset. And also, it takes a toll on my hands and wrists. So I have limited knitting time in that I can only knit for so long before I start experiencing pain, or before I start getting distracted and making errors because of other things. So I have limited knitting time. And what knitting time I do have, I have to focus on doing my job. I have to knit swatches. I have to knit patterns. I have to make samples. I have to do my job. So I can't, I currently am not able to devote any of my knitting space to leisure knitting or knitting fun. I was able to justify the tee that I knit because I've never knit a garment. And I was telling myself that it would give me a better idea about how to knit garments and be able to answer people's questions. Turns out I picked out a weirdo garment, and it's not going to help anybody because it was weird, but it gave me that experience. So at least now I can say I have knit a garment. It's the same thing that I would love to learn how to crochet, but the brain power I would have to take away from knitting to learn crochet is brain power I would take away from my job. And I'm afraid I can't currently. I hate saying can't. I'm not currently able to do that. So, oh yeah, unfortunately, I don't knit other people's patterns. I do, though, purchase them. I purchase other people's patterns. Sometimes I purchase them just because I want to say, good job. I love this thing. Please design more of these things. And it's just, this is a beautiful garment. It's like giving somebody like a gold star because I'll see a design and it's a beautiful design and I feel like the designer should be rewarded for making something so beautiful. So I'll buy the pattern. And I will read patterns. Like I can read a pattern and get a better idea. And it keeps me up on how other people write patterns and it'll help me learn certain things. I will buy patterns if there's something in it that intrigues me or that I've never seen before. So I can read and see how that person accomplished that. I consider it like research. And I just want to contribute. But the odds of me actually knitting any of those patterns, very low. Is very, very low, unfortunately. Okay. I'm reading comments. Yeah, Roxanne Richardson is fantastic. She's a wonderful information person. She's a lot more focused than I am. I'm very distractible. Okay. I wonder if I would recommend a top-down raglan. I'm sorry, Tina. Did you hear what I just said about having only ever knit one garment? I know squat about garments. So you say you're a big girl and it seems that it would be a good way to size up, maybe start with a baby size. So you want to knit a baby cardigan first, just so that you understand the structure of it? Oh, thank you, my golfer. It was a beautiful sweater, but it really just reinforced one of the reasons why I don't knit garments. And one of the reasons why I don't knit garments is because I'm a big girl and I had enough motivation to knit that garment when I was smaller than I currently am. And I unfortunately, um, that garment fit me for a total of about 6 months before it no longer fit me, and that's what frustrates me about knitting garments. Uh, okay, so what I would say, I cannot recommend anything from, like, experience, but what I would say, are you on Ravelry? What I would advise is for you to go, I'm doing it right now. We're gonna go to construction. Um, top down clothing cardigan. If you just go to Ravelry and you can go, hang on, you know what? I'm gonna clear this. Okay, here what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this live. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go construction. We're gonna go top down. We're gonna go clothing. We're gonna go sweater. We're gonna go cardigan. We're gonna go knitting. We're gonna go. I know there's a spot. Here we go. I know there's a spot where you go for where it'll tell you what the shaping is. Collar, edging, neck, pocket, sleeve. Raglan. And then we're gonna go to age your size. And we're gonna go to baby. Okay. Oh yeah, Tin Can Knits has a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of really good advice going on in here. What kind of yarn do you want to use? Because the next thing that would narrow things down is the yarn weight. So what we would do is go to yarn weight and say, what weight do you want to make this out of? I'm guessing you probably have a lot of fingering weight yarn laying around because everybody else and their brother does. So these are all top down fingering weight raglan. That one's adorable. That one's adorable. Oh, look at that one. That is so cute. And you just pick out whichever one you want to do. Okay, DK weight. You need a lot of socks. Okay, so let's go to DK. and get rid of fingering. There we go. Even more options. All kinds of options. Let's go down here and narrow things down by saying only one color. So, I mean, there's like an infinite, well, not an infinite. There are 179 different patterns to choose from, and you just look at them. But yes, Tin Can Knits has a lot of really cute stuff. So it's just because I don't have little kids. I don't knit for little kids. Um, I don't have any specific advice, but there's definitely raglan is a very easy thing to do. Um, and when you start looking for a garment for yourself, what I would advise is to specifically look for designers who are size inclusive, because there are designers out there who hang on, let me look and see. I know I've done a lot of fave fives, and I'm pretty sure I did a fave five size inclusive. Okay, let me see here. Let's see, brand new, small knitting, fun and easy, texture filled, people, one skein, unisex. You know what? You guys probably would like to see what I'm doing. I'm just going doopy-doopy-doo. Okay. So this is my behind the scenes. This is what it looks like behind my YouTube channel. There's Fave 5 unisex kid sweaters. So many Fave 5s. You guys might be getting an idea why I haven't made a whole lot of Fave 5s. I have so many Fave 5 ones. Let's go back. Oh, I could have sworn I recently did a cardigan kind of situation, but I may be just imagining things. I don't know. So much. Okay. There we go. Oh, on how to pick a raglan pattern. That is really interesting. A pair of mittens. Okay, and I'm serious. This is not a silly question. I'm asking you a serious question. Tina, if you've been knitting that long, have you ever made a pair of mittens or fingerless mitts with thumb gussets? Okay, I'm gonna wait for you to answer me. Yeah, a lot of people do tin cans knits. You have. Okay. So Tina, thumb gussets are raglan shaping on your thumbs. Essentially, a top-down raglan is a thumb gusset that starts here and expands and starts here and expands. That's what raglan is. It is gussets on your shoulders. And you're going to knit around, and then usually you'll leave a stitch in between because it's like place marker, stitch, place marker, and then place marker, stitch, place marker, and then you're going to increase inside those markers, making an ever increasing triangle. A lot of times they double the increases up. It's the same concept. A lot of times you'll be increasing on top side of a point, and you're doing two because you're increasing the back and the shoulders at the same time. And then once it is the length the circumference that your arm needs to be. You're going to move those stitches onto waste yarn and join to knit in the round. And go, well, not to knit in the round, join knit flat because you're doing a cardigan. But raglan is thumb gussets on your shoulders, or thumb gussets are little tiny raglans on your thumbs. Depends on which one you've done first, but it is. So the raglan, so the increases are on the inside to expand here, and they're going to be on the outside to make the collar and the yoke expand. What did you learn by watching me do the Ravelry search, golfer? My golfer? Dude, yeah, Ravelry search is unbelievably powerful. You got to narrow stuff down. There's too much information. Oh my goodness. It's been a long time. Oh, construction type. There's all kinds of stuff in there. There's different. You can do work flat. You can do worked in the round. You can do construction. You can just go into that advanced search and click every single button and see what options it gives you. You would be astounded how many. And you know what? Okay. Okay. Hang on. I want to show you something else here. If you liked that, okay. So we go into advanced search. Let's do it again. Okay. So we said DK weight, and we said, okay, we don't want, okay, construction. So here's all the things in construction. We want top down, and then there's all kinds of techniques, and we've got all types of design elements, and we went for raglan, right? And then here, fabric characteristics, right? Let's go in here and click lace. Okay, now once I've clicked something there, you go down here where it says and click advanced. And what I can do here is top down and raglan sleeve and not lace, which will take, because I don't want any fancy lace. And then I can go and not. And then I can go down here and add any, I can add anything. Like if I didn't want lace, if you don't want it to be complicated, right? I can go in, and there's, see, it's so ridiculous. Let's say we also don't want any cables, okay? So the and not, and then we're going to go to clothing, sweater, cardigan, knitting. If I do one color, that's going to drop out color work. And now we're going to go back to baby. And that narrowed it down to only 116 matches. And we've dropped out. So this, looking at this, they consider those eyelets. That's why it's still in here. This looks like a super, super simple pattern. Right? But you can go in and use the and not. If you more know what you don't want, then you can go in with the and not, and you can go here and you can restrict it by how much yardage you want to use or the needle size. Or you can even go all the way down to here and say, I only want a pattern that will use yarn in my stash. So it's just absolutely bonkers. Whoop, that went by too fast. It's so crazy how much you can do. Hello, crochet and knit around New Zealand. Trish, good afternoon. Thank you. I'm so glad you found us and that you're here. I'm afraid we're just getting ready to wrap things up because I've been on for 2 hours. You guys, how do you guys keep me talking this long? iRock Knitting teaches how to use Ravelry. Yeah, there's so much. I every time I turn around, Ravelry shows me something that I didn't even know you could do, like the yarn tab. There's so much. Um, oh, I'm glad that was useful, my golfer. It is. I'd say just go in and click every button because you will find buttons that I didn't even know existed. Time flies in good company. That is super sweet. Thank you. Okay, I gotta make this go away because I do not want to knit a baby sweater, but I very much do want to knit a baby sweater, and I gotta not be looking at baby sweaters. I mean, Facebook already thinks that I have a toddler because I look at stuff, and I'm like, no, I don't have a toddler. Thank you. You were having a nap? Must be nice. It is like 9 o'clock where I am, and my husband has actually been out of town for the last 4 days, and he just got in, like walked in the door at like a little after 6. So I've seen him for a total of like 30 minutes before I got on the computer with y'all. So he probably wants some attention. He's been in Raleigh, which we had a discussion about how the name of that has like all the wrong letters in it, and like why are these letters in this name, because this is not actually how it's Raleigh, and it's silly how many extra like wrong letters. I mean, it's about the same amount of letters, but they're all wrong. They're sideways. Thank you, Tracy. I will see you next month. Is there a way to save searches in Ravelry? I think so, but I've never done it. Yes. Yes, you can. I would have to poke a bunch of buttons to figure it out, but you can. The other thing you can do is you can like click the little heart button and save and then just look at and compare the specific ones that you want to look at. That function I have used. Saving searches I haven't used. But it's hot this afternoon. You know, I was just watching a TikTok where it was a person walking down a path and then a kiwi jumped out and walked across the path. And I was like, look at the kiwi. And for me, obviously, that is a bizarre sight. But for people in New Zealand, maybe not so much, but that is a freaky looking creature. And it just waddling across a path is just like mind boggling. You can do it, Michelle. Go for your first one. Ooh, Karen, it notifies you when there are new things that fit your parameters. I didn't know that. Okay, so you don't see them? Okay, then it was. It was a really cool video because this is this woman walking down this path, and then all of a sudden this little kiwi comes out and it like hops across like this little thing and then stopped and turned and then looked at her and then kept going. I was just like, well, that was weird. It was kind of it was funny. The person the caption said it was a female kiwi. I don't know how you tell the difference between a male and a female kiwi. I would not try to turn it upside down personally. This beak is very long. A roadrunner. Okay, there's another person on TikTok. There's a woman on TikTok that has a pet roadrunner. Like it's not technically her pet, but every time she comes outside, she's like on a farm, and this roadrunner is obsessed with her, and he brings her like stuff, and he like makes all these. He just like attacks her feet. I don't know. I'm on a weird TikTok world. TikTok shows me lots and lots of strange and cute animals. That's just mostly what I look at. It's just like that and birds, and that's because my son loves birds. So the love language of Gen Z is exchanging funny videos. That's just how you communicate with this age group. I don't know if you know that. But I'm like, yeah, here's a cute bird. Um, no, roadrunners are absolutely real. You know what? When I went across, there was a time I did this huge trip across across the United States. Really, um, I we were in New Mexico, and we were driving through this really, wild area, and I looked over, and for a split second, my brain was like, "Is there a zoo around here? Did these things escape?" And then my brain went, "Where the deer and the antelope play," and I was like, "Oh, geez, they were antelope, like with the big white butts running across this big field." And I was just like, "Oh, I guess they do live here," because my first thought was they escaped from a zoo. It's like, no, they're antelope. They live here. It's so strange. Well, it is. There's weird creatures. There's all kinds of weird creatures out there. Um, where I live in Florida, we got plenty of alligators. But when I went to the Australia Zoo, here's hilarious. When I went to the Australia Zoo and I walked in and we turned left, the first exhibit we encountered was the American alligator. I was like, "Hi guys, long time no see. What are you guys doing here?" And then we wandered through, saw lots of amazing things. One of the wildest things is we were going for the wombat exhibit, and when we got to the wombat exhibit, the woman, the keeper, had just gotten the wombat out and had it on a leash and was walking it to someplace else. I'm like, "You can walk a wombat on a leash?" I didn't know. And so we followed her. And there was this guy pulling like this little red wagon full of stuff. And she's just walking this wombat on a leash. I took a video of it because I'm like, "What? We're walking a wombat today?" And apparently she was walking it over to this other area where someone had paid for like the wombat petting experience. And she was taking the wombat over there to be pet. And I was just like, I can't believe we walked up as this woman was walking a wombat. Um, couldn't even. You wish you had squirrels? Have you ever seen a chipmunk? Because squirrels are okay, but chipmunks are adorable. Chipmunks are the cutest things. Chipmunks are love chipmunks. The house we had in Atlanta, we had 3 pin oaks, which were around 120 feet tall, and we had 2 full-size chestnut trees. So when the fall came and we had chestnuts and acorns on the ground, it was like a chipmunk festival. There were I would stand at my sink doing dishes, looking out, and the chestnut was in the middle of the yard, and then there was a stretch, and then the one of the oaks was over here, and they'd be running across, like just streaking across. And at any given time, I could see 4 or 5 chipmunks at a time, them running across trying to get the chestnuts. So they were so cute. Ohio squirrels. Not having bears or snakes is a good plan. Chipmunks, if you were gonna wish for something, I would wish for chipmunks instead of squirrels, because chipmunks are much cuter than squirrels. Their little cheeks and their little. Okay, yes. You didn't know that chipmunks are real? Where do you live, LPGA? Chipmunks are totally real. Okay. Oh, no, I would not want squirrels in my walls. Doesn't have chipmunks. This is what a chipmunk looks like. These are chipmunks. They're ridiculous. Look at their little faces. They're the cutest things ever. Squirrels can get real raggedy. Chipmunks are cute forever. They're so cute. Where's the little stripy faces? Yes, chipmunks are real. Yeah, squirrels are annoying. But chipmunks. I would be with you on being sad about chipmunks. And there are no chipmunks here in Florida. I just had a bunch of chipmunks in Georgia. Um okay. Okay. Thank you all for joining. I had a lot of fun. I hope you all did. Next time, my Trish from New Zealand, a little bit earlier. Just a little bit earlier. But we love that you caught us. They look in Chip and Dale. You're right, Nick Crochet Tiger. They look like Chip and Dale. Chip and Dale are chipmunks. Alvin and the Chipmunks just look like cartoons. But real Trish. Okay, yes. Okay. Thank you, Mary Ellen. Thank you all for the really great questions. If you want to be thinking about questions for next month, March is coming up, and I would love to have more questions. Of course, obviously, we talk about everything and anything, but I really appreciate it. You make my month always. It is so much fun. If you're still out there, Elizabeth, thank you for coming, and Joan and everybody. I love seeing all the same names. Bring your friends, but if it's just us, it's more like a clubhouse. So thank you all so much. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad I can be here for y'all. I need to do something about my hair. The green is not greening. But I'm getting lazy about it. I think I'm growing it out. I think I'm growing the color out because I'm not feeling it right now. But we'll see you later. Let me know if you have any questions on Facebook or Instagram or wherever. And you have a lovely night. And I'll see you next month. Okay. We're going to push the button. Bye bye, friends. And we're going to end it with this button.